People watching this on the day this comes out, happy Halloween. Hope you guys have a great holiday. For today, I'm just gonna do quick, like 1.5 minute recaps of each game. I'm not really gonna go in depth. Got to recording a little late, and I know you guys probably want to have fun on your holiday, so let's talk about these games pretty quickly. We have the Washington Wizards winning both games of their home and home against the Atlanta Hawks. They did a great job in the second half. Atlanta took a lead early in this one, had control for a good amount of the first half, had a really strong second quarter to take a solid lead into halftime, but Washington has a tremendous second half on the offensive side of the ball, scoring 76 points in the half to win the game. And with Kyle Kuzma missing this game, the Wizards went entirely for the youth movement. Bilal Coulibaly, he had a great game, 27 points, great defense. Jordan Poole, he was a little inefficient, but still had 24 points, 9 assists. Bub Carrington, he's been playing really well. He had 16 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. He was efficient as well. And Keyshawn George played pretty well too, 50% shooting, 3 steals, 11 points. Alex Sarr, his defense is great, still has to work a little more offensively. And Corey Kispert had a solid game as well. This Wizards youth movement, they're going to win a few games this year. They know their goal isn't really going to be this good team. They're going to be 15th or 14th in the East most likely, but they put up some fight. They have some really solid young guys that they can build around for the future. They just overall had a way worse second half than they did first half. Their first half, they were pretty good on both sides of the ball, but they just fell apart on both ends in that second half. Trae Young had a solid night, 35 points, 15 rebounds. Shot 12 of 28, was just 4 of 13 from 3, but overall solid game for him. Jalen Johnson, 21 points, a career high, 17 assists, had a pretty similar shooting percentage, was just 9 of 21. Risa Shea probably had his best game so far, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 3 stocks. He's a really good defender. Almost shot 50% from the field. David Roddy's looked good. Clint Capella had a solid game, especially over Onyeka Okongwu. Clint played way better than Onyeka in this one, but it wasn't enough for Atlanta, who loses both games to this Washington team now, which is something that they really did not want. To rebound from this skid Friday against the Kings, while the Wizards will look to get their third win in a row Saturday against Miami. The Pistons get on the board, getting their first win of the year, winning 105-95 against the Sixers. And after a first quarter where the Sixers had control for most of the frame, Detroit took over with a great second quarter, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Their offense started clicking as well, and they never lost this lead in the second half. In fact, they were up by as much as 21 at one point, had control for this game throughout most of the rest of the game. Sixers had a run here and there, but Detroit would easily counter every time. Sixers make it a little fake close at the end, making it just a 10-point loss for them, but really Detroit had a lot more control than what the score would indicate. Team effort for the Pistons last night. Cade Cunningham, he finishes with 22 points, 7 assists. He has a solid game. Jaden Ivey leads Detroit in scoring with 23 points. He has 3 assists as well. He shoots pretty efficiently. Ron Holland, he played great defense. Tim Hardaway Jr. shot really well. Wasn't the most efficient game for Malik Beasley, but he was in double figures. Isaiah Stewart was way better than Jalen Duren. Duren got in foul trouble. Stewart did a nice job stopgapping him. And Tobias Harris, in his return to Philadelphia after a really rough first half, finishes the game with 18 points, 14 rebounds. The crowd was letting him hear it all night. It wasn't his most efficient game. He shoots 8 of 18 from the field, did not make a 3. But overall, really strong win for Detroit on the road to get on the board this year. Offense was carried by Tyrese Maxey yesterday. 32 points, 7 assists, shot just under 50% from the field. Just 2 other Sixers were in double figures, and they both shot poorly. Jared McCain, he had 12 points, did have his moments, I will say, but he did just shoot 33% from the field. And Kelly Oubre had 13 points, 7 rebounds, but he also had an inefficient 5 of 14 night. Overall, the Sixers offense is just not good without Joel Embiid or Paul George on the court. You can just tell that they don't really have enough star power without those two guys out. They're hoping they're going to get at least one of them back coming soon to at least alleviate those issues, because as of right now, they have one of the worst offenses in the league, and it's why they're 1-3. While it was a little closer than Indiana would have liked it to be, they win 135-132 against the Celtics in overtime. This was a game that Indiana would have liked to be a lot easier, but they forced Boston to their first loss of the season, and especially with how they'd been playing to start the season, this is a great win for them. They were up by as much as 24 at one point. They had complete control of the first 3 quarters of this game, and for most of the fourth quarter, it looked like this game was over. They were up by basically 16 points with about 5 minutes left. And then Boston started coming back. They started hitting shot after shot after shot after shot. And sure enough, down the stretch, the Celtics come and tie the game off of a few free throws. Then Indiana retakes the lead with a 2, but then Jason Tatum hits a game-tying shot with 14 seconds left. It sends the game to overtime. We're back and forth throughout most of overtime. Boston takes a 2-point lead with 36 seconds left. Then Pascal Siakam hits the game-tying, then game-winning shot back-to-back to have Indiana barely pull away in an overtime thriller. Was led by Pascal Siakam and Benedict Mathurin last night. Siakam finished with 29, 11, and 5, shot just above 50% from the field, and he hit those 2 big shots to tie and win the Pacers the game. And Mathurin was great in both the second and third quarters. He finished with 30 points, which was a team high, 11 rebounds, 4 assists. He shoots 9 of 17 from the field. Wasn't the best shooting game again for Tyrese Halliburton, but he still finished with 17 points, had 6 rebounds, 12 assists, 7 of 19 from the field, was just 2 of 10 from long distance, but was really good passing-wise, was making the right reads. Obi Toppin, he had a strong game with 18. Aaron Nesmith was in double figures. He had a good game. Isaiah Jackson played well off the bench. TJ McConnell played well off the bench. Ben Shepherd played well off the bench. All around, strong game for Indiana's bench. They got a lot of scoring from a lot of different guys, which helped propel them to the win. They just were not able to overcome their bad shooting start. They almost did. They were able to send the game into overtime, but if they even shot a little better in the first half, they would have won this one. Jason Tatum leads Boston in scoring with 37, 8, and 4. He has 4 steals as well, but goes just 10 of 25 from the field, and that's due to a 5 of 18 game from long distance. He did hit the game-tying 3, but he was also really rocky from long distance. Was good when driving, but didn't drive very much in this game. Derek White, he had a great offensive game, 23 points on 8 of 9 shooting. He made all 5 of his shots from long distance. It was not, however, a good game for Jaylen Brown shooting-wise. 25 points, but he goes 11 of 30, 1 of 11 from long distance. He attempted the game-tying shot in overtime as well, and personally for me, when you're not shooting well, that was just not the shot to take in my eyes, but I get the vision. Pritchard, he has another all-right game off the bench. 16 points, 4 assists, 4 of 11 from 3. You'd like him to be a little better, but he's turned out to be a really strong guy off the bench to start the year. Cornette played all right, 8 points, 9 rebounds in just 15 minutes. Horford had 8 points. Drew Holiday could have had a better game. And all around, if Boston just started the game off a little better, they would have won this one. But they're still 4-1. They still won their first 4 games by 15-plus points. They're going to be fine. Teams will be playing on the road Friday night, with Boston taking on the Hornets and the Pacers taking on the Pelicans. Have the Cleveland Cavaliers dominating in a homecoming for LeBron, giving the Lakers their second loss in a row and winning this one 134-110 in blowout fashion. And Cleveland had control of this game from the very jump. They win the first quarter 42-23, do a great job on both sides of the ball early on. keep it like that almost the rest of the way. They don't ever turn it into like a 30, 40 point blowout. The biggest lead they had was 28, but Los Angeles never had a chance. Cleveland held them at bay at the entire time, and an overall great win for the Cavs, who start out 5-0 now and look like a really good team in the Eastern Conference. It's led by their two big men in this one, with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley both having great games. Allen finishes with 20 points, 17 rebounds. He goes 9 of 12 from the field, while Mobley has 25 points, 5 rebounds, 12 of 16 from the field. They both help lead Cleveland on both sides of the ball. Donovan Mitchell, he had a strong game of his own, 24 points, 7 assists. He shoots 50% from the field, makes 4 of his 10 threes as well. Karis LeVert comes off the bench, gives 16 points, 6 assists in just 21 minutes. Darius Garland may have not been his best game, just 12 points, 10 assists, was still able to get a double-double on a bad shooting night. Ty Jerome, he has another strong game off the bench with 14 points and 4 assists. He's come out of nowhere to be a strong backup for Cleveland, and Dean Wade also added 8 points of his own in an all-around great win for the Cavs. They overall just played a pretty sloppy game, having 20 turnovers. They let Cleveland score a lot of paint points, and the Lakers themselves also had a pretty bad night from 3, going 6 of 28 from long distance. LeBron leads Cleveland, huh? It's kind of muscle memory, everybody. LeBron leads the Lakers in scoring with 26 points, 6 rebounds. He shoots an efficient 9 and 13 from the field. Anthony Davis, he has 22 points, 13 rebounds, shoots just above 50% from the field. It honestly may have been his worst game of the year, which shows you just how good Anthony Davis has been so far this year. Dalton Connect, he has 18 points in 22 minutes, shoots 50% from the field, even though that 3 wasn't falling as much as the Lakers probably would have liked. D'Angelo Russell, he has a rough game, inefficient 10-point performance, was not one he'd like to remember. Same thing could be said for Max Christie. He's been off to a cold start this year. Rui was solid, Jackson Hayes was solid, and lastly, congratulations for Bronny to getting his first point in the league. He did it in Cleveland too, which was pretty cool, a nice little homecoming. That was pretty cool that the Cavs did all that stuff too, but the Lakers have lost back-to-back games now after their strong 3-0 start to the season. Teams will play again Friday, with the Lakers trying to rebound against the Raptors and the Cavaliers looking to jump to 6-0 in a game against the Magic. We have the Hornets winning 138-133 against the Toronto Raptors. Another pretty interesting game. The Hornets came out firing. They were off to a great start, playing amazing defense. They went up by 23 with 7 minutes left in the second quarter, and then Toronto's offense just caught fire for about a quarter and a half. They turned that 23-point Charlotte lead into a Toronto lead near the end of the third quarter. The Hornets were able to end that third quarter off strong, keep that lead into the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter, slightly back and forth. The Hornets are trying to hold the Raptors at bay, make sure they aren't able to come back, and they do a pretty good job at that. They're able to stay in front the entire fourth quarter. Toronto gets as close as 3 with about 30 seconds left, but at that point it was the foul game time, and the Hornets made their free throws, were able to pull away and get the win. Able to have a great offensive game despite a bad shooting performance from LaMelo Ball. He just has 19 points, 6 assists, 7 of 20 from the field, 4 of 12 from 3. Despite that, the Hornets end the night going 52% from the field, 44.4% from 3, along with 20 made threes. It's led by Trey Mann off the bench. He has 27 points in 28 minutes. He goes 10 of 19 from the field, 4 of 8 from 3. He has been having some really good games off the bench to start the year. Nick Richards, another guy who had a strong game, 24 points, 14 rebounds, 4 blocks. He goes 10 of 14 from the field. Cody Martin also has a really good game. He has 25 points of his own, 9 of 11 from the field, 4 of 6 from long distance. Grant Williams, another guy who has a good game, 17 points, 83% from the field. Josh Green, he has 9 points on 50% shooting. All around, a strong offensive game for the Hornets propels them to the victory in this one. And I have to give credit to the fight that this Toronto Raptors team has. It's the one thing that I've noticed from them early on in the year. Despite if they're undermanned or if they're, down in a game, these guys do not give up. They play hard basketball and they play every game really toughly. They're going to be without Scotty Barnes for a few weeks. He broke his eye, orbital fracture, I believe. Still, without him, their offense has a solid game. It was just their defense that was holding them back. Both RJ Barrett and Grady Dick have 30-point games. Grady Dick was tremendous, one of, if not the best game of his young career. 30 points, 11 of 17 shooting. RJ Barrett finishes with 31 and 8. He goes 10 of 18 from the field, makes 4 of his 6 threes. Jakob Poeltl, he has a solid game, shoots over 70% from the field, getting 20 points, 16 rebounds. Davion Mitchell has a double-double, 11 points, 11 assists. Jonathan Mogbo, the rookie, gets his first career start, is in double figures and gets 3 stocks on an efficient 5 of 7 shooting. Ochai is in double figures. Chris Boucher is in double figures. Jamal Sheed may have not been his most efficient game, but he fights hard. Just was not enough to overcome a great Charlotte offensive performance. But once again, Toronto fights. I got to give credit to them. They are a team that fights hard, and I like them a lot. These are going to be the 2 teams that fight for the last play-in spot in the Eastern Conference. Teams will be home on Friday with Charlotte taking on the Celtics and the Raptors taking on the Lakers. We have the Knicks winning 116-107 against the Miami Heat. Semi-strong start from New York. Miami ends the first quarter off really well. They go on a run, take a lead. They hold on to that lead for almost the entirety of the second quarter. Move it into the third quarter as well. They go up by 13 with about 8 minutes left in that third quarter. And then New York goes on a massive 27-9 run to take the lead over. They hold on to the lead the rest of the way. Miami tries to get back into it. They get as close as 3 at one point, but New York is able to gradually pull away and get the win in this one against a team that eliminated them in the playoffs a few years ago. Wasn't on those teams a few years ago that is there now is Karl Anthony Towns, and he was wonderful with 44 points, 13 rebounds. He goes 17 of 25 from the field, 4 of 5 from 3. He helps propel the Knicks to a great offensive second half, and the Knicks as a team go 48% from the field, 45% from 3, 90% from the line. All around, that great Knicks offensive second half propels them to the win, even with a guy like Jalen Brunson not having the most efficient night, 22 points, 9 assists, does shoot just 33% from the field, even with Mikal Bridges shooting just under 40% as well, 17 points, 6 assists. Their others had a very strong game. Josh Hart, 10, 14, and 6, goes 57% from the field. OG Anunoby, 11 points, great defense, 50% from the field. Deuce may have not been his most efficient game, was still able to get double figures off the bench, and thanks to Karl Anthony Towns and the Knicks' strong second half in general, they are able to get a great win. They really only seem to have 3 good players on the offensive side of the ball in this one, and it was led by Tyler Hero, who finishes with 34 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. He shoots a really efficient 12 of 20 from the field, 8 of 13 from long distance. A great game for him, by far his best of the season. Jimmy Butler, while he scores just 15 points, he was an efficient 6 of 9 from the field. And Nikola Jovic also is in double figures. He had 6 rebounds as well, and he shot 57% from the field. Miami, the less said, the better. It was an interesting game for Terry Rozier. He finished with 16 points, 7 assists, and you hear the 4 of 8 from 3, and you think he has an efficient night, but he goes just 1 of 9 from 2, finishing the game 5 of 14 from the field. Bam Adebayo has not been off to a good offensive start this year. Just 11 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, just makes 3 of 7 shots. Not a good overall game for him. Jaime Jaquez Jr., he does have 8 points and 8 rebounds, but he goes just 2 of 10 from the field, and the rest of Miami's team in total had just 13 points. An all-around weak game for Miami's depth. So even though Tyler Hero has a great game and Jimmy Butler has an efficient night, Miami was not able to get the win. We'll look to get another win Friday against the Pistons, while Miami is going to look to rebound Saturday against the Wizards. We have the Nets earning a 119-106 win over the Grizzlies. For a strong start for the Grizzlies, they gradually lost control of this when they went up 8 a few minutes into the first quarter, but the Nets quickly countered with a run of their own. They go on an 18-5 run to end the first quarter, win that frame by 5 points. The two teams go back and forth basically the entire second quarter, and then in that third quarter, Brooklyn jumps out to a really strong start, like a 13-2, 11-2 start, puts them out in a double-digit lead, 14 points, but Memphis quickly comes back, and they were able to make it a 1-point game heading into the fourth quarter, but once again, Brooklyn is able to go on a run. They play great defense down the stretch. They win the final frame 28-16 to earn their second win of the season. They were once again led by Dennis Schroeder. He has 33 points, 8 assists, 11 of 14 shooting, 6 of 9 from 3. He's been off to an awesome start so far this year. Another guy that played well for the second game in a row is Zaire Williams. 24 minutes, 17 points, 5 stocks, 6 of 10 shooting. Jalen Wilson, he's another guy that's been playing well. 12 points, 7 assists. He goes 5 of 7 from the field. Cam Thomas, even though he doesn't have a good game, the Nets are able to get the win. Cam finished with just 19 points on 4 of 12 shooting. He was able to go 10 of 11 from the line, but wasn't his most efficient game all around. For Memphis, they were led by Jaren Jackson Jr. He has a 30-point outburst, has a really efficient 10 of 12 game from the field as well. He has 3 steals on the night too. Ja Morant, pretty inefficient game for him, was not his best shooting game, but he does have 8 rebounds, he does have an 11 assists, but he just goes 5 of 16 from the field in this one. Memphis just did not get good play from their depth that had been playing well for most of the season so far. Santi Aldama, he has most likely his worst game of the year. Scottie Pippen Jr. does not have a very good game. Jake LaRavia doesn't have a very good game. So even though Brandon Clark and Zach Edey both probably have their best games of the season so far, it wasn't enough for Memphis to get the win. And to add insult to injury, both Desmond Bane and Marcus Smart had to leave this game with injury. The Grizzlies just really seem to have some horrendous injury luck for the second year in a row. I hope both of them are okay and they don't have to miss time, because this is another year where it looks like Memphis may have to deal with a lot of injury issues. Will play again tonight against the Bucks, while the Nets won't play again till Friday, where they take on the Bulls. Have the Bulls pulling off a 20-plus point comeback for the second game in a row, beating the Orlando Magic 102-99. The Bulls made a great second half comeback. There was about a 6-minute stretch in the fourth quarter that may have been some of the ugliest 6 minutes of basketball I have ever had the misfortune of watching in my entire life. I think the two teams combined for 0 of 20 shooting in this 6-minute fourth quarter stretch. You're going to look at the box score and you're going to see, okay, well, Orlando won the first quarter by a lot. The Bulls gradually come back. And then you're going to see a fourth quarter that says that the final score of that frame was Chicago 16. And they had more, by the way. Orlando finishes with just 12 fourth quarter points. Chicago is able to use that grueling fourth quarter to pull away and get a strong win. For Chicago in their win was probably Josh Giddey. He had 20 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, was a plus 11, had an efficient game going 6 of 11 from the field, and made all 4 of his threes. And Giddey is 10 of 17 from 3 this year to start off the season, and that was a thing that a lot of people were worried about. Would he ruin Chicago's spacing, or would he just become a net negative on the floor just because his spacing was so poor, but he had a really strong night tonight and really won Chicago this game. Nikola Vucevic, he had 18 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, goes 7 of 16 from the field, was not his most efficient game. He misses all 3 of his threes. It was a weak game for Zach LaVine as well, 11 points, goes 2 of 9 from the field, but Kobe White, he was able to pick it up, 21 points, 50% shooting. Ayo and Patrick Williams also both getting double figures, and the Bulls defense has a pretty strong night, even outside of that, 5-6 minute stretch, which was really more open shots than the Bulls playing great defense. But overall, Chicago does have a strong night on the defensive side of the ball. They get a good win, a much needed one too. Back-to-back 20-point wins is really cool, especially at the start of the year. Have to give credit where credit's due. Chicago has looked really good these last few games. For Orlando, Paolo Banchero led the scoring charge. He had 31 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. Again, he starts off really strong. He tailed off at the end. Shot 12 of 22 from the field, though, and was still definitely the best player for the Magic. Another guy who had a strong night, Jalen Suggs, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 6 stocks. He goes 7 of 16 from the field, 3 of 9 from 3, and his last 30 seconds of the game were very interesting. He made the perfect pickpocket play down to get Orlando the ball back, but also took a fadeaway falling 2 that was this close to going in to tie the game, but it rimmed out of the front rim. Chicago was able to hold on, grab the rebound, get the win. Overall, Suggs and Banchero were 2 of 3 Magic players to be in double figures, the only other one being Wendell Carter Jr., who had 14 points, 7 rebounds on 50% shooting. Outside of that, not a good game for Franz Wagner, not a good game for Anthony Black, really, not a good game for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope on that end, neither even Mo Wagner, just all around bad offensive game for the Magic. They show their youth problem, that's their one issue. They aren't the best offensive team, and they definitely will have their stretches where they're just brutal to watch on that offensive end, but still overall a great team. They played a really strong defense for most of the night, just were not able to hold on to this lead due to how bad their offense was down the stretch. Look to rebound with a win Friday against Cleveland, while the Bulls will look to get another win Friday against Brooklyn. The Thunder pretty handedly winning a game 105-93 against the San Antonio Spurs. A pretty quick start for the Spurs. They went up by 6 a few minutes into the first quarter. The Thunder were able to quickly take the lead, and they never lost it the rest of the way, and that was due to how great they were on the defensive side of the ball. Once again, this is now Oklahoma City's 3rd game this season where they have held a team to under 100 points. Really impressive job on the defensive end for them. They've been playing a slower style pace. They've also just been completely destroying teams on the defensive side of the ball, and it's led to them still having an undefeated record right now. Oklahoma City did win this game through defense. I mean, just look at the amount of steals that they had. They forced 22 San Antonio's turnovers, and the Thunder were completely destroying the lanes and picking pockets. They ended the night with 18 steals. J-Dub, he had 4 of them, so even though he had an inefficient game going just 5 of 13 from the field, he still had 12 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, a few stocks. Alex Caruso may have not had a point. He had 4 steals on great defense. And then there were also guys that played good on both ends. Guys like Lou Dort, who led the Thunder in scoring with 20 points, 6 rebounds. He had a few blocks, went 7 of 9 from the field, 6 of 8 from 3 as well. Chet Holmgren, he had a phenomenal first half. He had 17 of his 19 points in the first half, a few rebounds, 4 stocks, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 7 of 10 from the field, made all 3 of his threes. AJ Mitchell, he comes off the bench, gets 12 points, 4 rebounds, shoots 5 of 6 from the field, gets a few steals of his own. Kassan Wallace, he has 9 points off the bench. He also gets a few steals of his own. So even though guys like Shea had just 7 of 20 nights and just were not efficient on the offensive end. The Thunder picked up the slack on the offensive end and also had a phenomenal game on the defensive end. And when you're talking about San Antonio, and one thing I've really noticed about them so far on the offensive side of the ball this year, I don't like how much they have Victor Wembanyama on their perimeter. I get it. He's a freak. He's an alien. And when he's on, he can hit those shots from out there. But the fact that he takes 5 shots in this entire game, 3 of them being from long distance, taking just 2 shots inside the perimeter as a 7'4" man is just not a good strategy. I get it. He wants to try and become Kevin Durant, but you also have to realize, you're 4 inches taller than everybody on the court, my man. Just go down low sometimes. Find a scheme that isn't just everybody stand around, hope Wemby, bails them out. I didn't really understand Greg Popovich's strategy, and I could tell that some Spurs fans are really annoyed with how their offense is being played, and I can completely understand why. I mean, no player had more than 20 points for them tonight. Harrison Barnes was their leading scorer with 18. He goes 7 of 12 from the field, played well. Jeremy Sohan has been off to a good start this year, 17 points. May have just gone 7 of 16 from the field, but he's kind of been a Swiss Army knife. Chris Paul, 14 points, 9 assists. Has an efficient game going 5 of 9, but there was no real star player, and nobody off the bench either who had a great game, especially against a defense like Oklahoma City's that could have bailed them out. Will look to rebound tonight against Utah, while the Thunder will look to stay undefeated Friday against Portland. Have the Warriors winning 104-89 against the Pelicans, taking both games of this baseball series, and Golden State had control for almost the entirety of this game. I think they led for basically 46 of the 48 minutes in this one, and it was due to just how great they played on the defensive side of the ball. The highest scoring quarter that the Pelicans had in this one was conveniently also the lowest scoring quarter that the Warriors had, as the Pelicans won that second quarter 24-20. But outside of that, this game was all Golden State. They were great on the defensive side of the ball, and they had their moments where their offense was clicking as well, which turned this from a close game into Golden State being up by as much as 20 in the fourth quarter, winning this game handedly by 15 points, and New Orleans never even really having a chance for most of the second half. Talk about Golden State's good players on the offensive end. I need to shout out Draymond Green. He was spectacular on Zion Williamson last night. He forced him to a 5 of 20 game, was badgering and annoying him all game long. He finishes the game with 14 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 6 stocks, 5 of 11 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3. It's like prime 2016 Draymond came out for one game and had an awesome night, especially without Steph Curry on the court. Buddy Hield, he finished with 22 points, 4 of 12 from 3, 8 of 19 from the field, which if that's his worst game a few games into the season, you will take that any day of the week. Trayce Jackson-Davis, he has a really strong game, 15 points and 9 rebounds on 7 of 9 shooting in 20 minutes. Jonathan Kuminga, he shoots 50% from the field and gets 16 points. Kyle Anderson, 15 minutes, 10 points, 100% shooting, really strong game off the bench. Lindy Waters was not able to rekindle the magic on the offensive side of the ball like he was last game, but still had his strong moments on the defensive end. And Pods finished with 13, 8, and 7, but was just 5 of 15 from the field. But Golden State's weaker offensive game did not matter because they held New Orleans to a 36.7% game from the field. Their leading scorer, Jordan Hawkins, he has 23 points, 9 of 21 from the field, 4 of 14 from 3. That was actually one of the more efficient games from New Orleans tonight. Jose Alvarado, he has 16 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. He has a good defensive game as well, 6 of 13 from the field, 4 of 8 from 3. Might have genuinely been New Orleans' best player last night. Brandon Ingram, not his best game, probably his worst of the season so far, 14, 5, and 6, 5 of 11 from the field. And We already talked about Zion. It was a really rough game for him. He was having issues with Dre all night long. 12 points, 12 rebounds, a 5 of 20 shooting game, 4 turnovers as well. Just a game that Zion needs to forget. And outside of those 4 guys, there was nobody else for the Pelicans who was even in double figures. The closest was Jeremiah Robinson early at 9 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Shot 3 of 4 from the field too. Had a pretty good game. And Jamal Cain had 7 points as well on 75% shooting. But outside of that, just a horrible game for New Orleans on the offensive end. And they have now lost 3 games in a row by 15 plus points. The lack of DeJounte Murray is showing early on, and they're going to need to turn it around quickly. Will look to end this 3-game losing streak Friday against the Pacers, while the Warriors will look to get another win Saturday in Houston. We have the Portland Trailblazers winning 106-105 against the Los Angeles Clippers. It is a game of runs, and it was pretty apparent in this one. The Clippers started off quickly, taking a double-digit lead early on thanks to an 8-0 run that they took in the first quarter. But then about midway through the second quarter, the Blazers went on a massive run of their own. It helped them take a double-digit lead near the end of the second quarter and the lead into halftime as well. But then, in midway through the third quarter, the Clippers went on another run of their own. They go on a big 21-5 run. They retake the lead. But gradually, as this game gets near the end, Portland is closing and closing and closing in on this gap that the Clippers have. And they are able to take the lead late, and then they force a James Harden turnover with the final possession. Harden tries to inbound it to Zubac low for the win. Instead, it's fronted and it's taken away by DeAndre Ayton. The Blazers hold on, and they get a really good win against a Clippers team that's been playing some good basketball. A defensive win for the Blazers. Outside of allowing the Clippers to score 35 points in that third quarter, through the other 3 quarters, they held the Clippers to just 70 points, doing a really strong job on the defensive end. So even though their core players like Anthony Simons and DeAndre Ayton and Denny Advia may have not had the most efficient games, they were still able to get the win. Simons led the Blazers in scoring 25 points, 6 rebounds, was 10 of 24 from the field, 3 of 9 from 3. Not his best game, not his worst game either, was probably Portland's best player though. DeAndre Ayton, he has 15 and 12, goes 7 of 15 from the field. May have only had 1 steal, but it was the biggest one of the game. Denny Advia, he has 13 and 10, goes 3 of 8 from the field, doesn't take that many shots. Scoot Henderson, he has a strong game, 14 points, 6 assists, 5 of 8 from the field. May have had a few turnovers, but I like what I've been seeing from him so far this year. He's definitely improved a good amount, and Tsunami Kamara had a strong defensive game while also having 12 points on 50% shooting. Donovan Clingan has shown some real flashes, 7 points, 6 rebounds, strong rim protection, 3 of 5 shooting. Ryan Rupert, he had a strong stretch in the third quarter of 7 points. Chris Murray, 5 points, 8 rebounds, 50% shooting. So the Blazers bench did a really good job on the defensive side of the ball. They won their minutes by a strong amount. So even though Simons, Ayton, Advia, and Jeremy Grant as well, who had a really rough night with 8 points on just 3 of 14 shooting, may have not had their best games, the Blazers' defense, along with their depth, was able to propel them to this really strong win. Point performance by Norman Powell was not enough for the Clippers to overcome the rest of their players just not having that strong of a game. Back-to-back 30-point games for Norm, by the way. He goes 11 of 22 from the field, 5 of 12 from 3. James Harden, 19 points, 10 assists, but he was just 6 of 18 from the field, was 5 of 11 from 3 throw. Had a strong night from long distance, just was 1 of 7 when attacking the paint though, and I think it was because he only went to the line 4 times. He was really trying to get some calls, just was not getting them like he thought he would, and that led to him missing a few shots. And outside of those two, there was nobody else for the Clippers outside of Kevin Porter Jr., who was in double figures. And KPJ at 10 points, sex rebounds. Wow, that'd be pretty interesting if you have sex rebounds. I mean, you've heard 6 rebounds before, but have you heard sex rebounds is the real question, everybody. 10 points, 6 rebounds, 5 of 11 shooting, rough of a 4 night from 3. And the rest of the Clippers just did not get double figures. Derrick Jones Jr., not his best game. He just gets 9 points, 8 rebounds, 4 of 11 from the field. Did have some solid defense, though. Zubac, 6 points, 12 rebounds, inefficient 2 of 7 night. It was by far his worst game of the year. Kai Jones was all right, though. 7 points, 5 rebounds off the bench, made all of his shots, but nobody really picked it up for the Clippers. There was nobody that stood out on the Clippers bench. No great performance, and that came to harm them in the end, while as Portland had multiple really strong performances off the bench. For the Clippers, though, they've still been playing some really good basketball, and one bad loss isn't going to change that. Will look to rebound tonight against the Suns, while the Blazers on Friday will look to hand Oklahoma City their first loss of the season. The 11-game slate from the association yesterday. If you guys watched to the end of this, thank you. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. God bless, and I will be back tomorrow recapping the 4 games that are going on tonight during Halloween.